Welcome this week to Studio Hotrods Restoration Revelations. We're going to be focusing on the wiring and how our wiring strategies differ from other people's in our cool Chevelles that we build. We do a lot of things that are very creative and very different, and I'm going to walk you through everything it takes to really wire the LT4 in these two bad boys that I'm standing in front of. This week's going to be fun. Like, subscribe, follow along. If you love hot rods and muscle cars, man, you are going to love Studio Hotrods. Oh yeah. All right, let's get to wiring this bad boy. In my hands, I'm holding some things that you typically don't see in most cars. This is a remote battery disconnect. I love these things. These actually work really well. This is our through hull power transfer, and these are our positive and negative buses that everything actually hooks up into through the car so we can set it up to work really good. Come on, let me show you where we get started. Okay guys, take a look. We're looking at the lower package tray inside of a 1970 Chevelle with the LT4 that we're finishing up. That little blue box that you see up in the corner, that is a remote battery disconnect. Next to that, you see the black and the white bus terminal interfaces for the battery. The battery specifically only goes to the bus locations instead of tying everything back to the battery. Yuck. We got our powered sub amp right there and speaker. And then if you go a little bit farther to the left, we're gonna take a look, and that is the Valvetronics controller for the exhaust system. That's a really cool feature on these cars. Coupled again with another remote amplifier for the 6-inch speakers up front and the 6x9s in back. We got about a total of 1,100 watts altogether. This stereo sounds awesome, but what is really unique about it is we have compartmentalized it all in that lower package tray with a lot of thought, some good effort. You can do the same exact thing. So copy our ideas if you want to, or look at our website. These things are going to become available for people if they want to get them from us. We'll make the parts for you. You put them in your cars. Anyways, I'm really proud of this because what it's done is it gives us a good platform and foundation now to go forward wiring the rest of the car. And another trick, always run your ground, not just to your chassis, but run it to the body. In the mid side of the car, we go from the A-pillar and to the chassis with 2 more ground cables. At the front, we go from the core support with a ground and to the engine with a ground. Everything's tied together to the frame, to the chassis, and to the engine. Ground is a huge deal in these things, and it's a really huge part of your circuit. Anyways, let's move forward. You got the house wiring, which is everything that's not really all that smart. Everything from headlights, turn signals, gas gauge, blah, 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 blah. All the basic house wiring type of stuff, lighting. And then you get the smarts, which is running the computer, the ECM, the electronic computer module, control module, whatever you want to call it. Now that's a separate thing. It's about 60% house wiring and about 40% ECU wiring. I'm going to walk you through both of those next on that car right there. Okay, when it comes to wiring, I'm talking about wiring everything on the car. All my cars actually get power windows. This is actually made by New Relic. We actually like these guys. They've been pretty good so far. There is a problem with this. This motor's got so much power, it actually jumps at the bottom. And if you put it in the configuration that when you buy the motors, they tell you to do it, you'll actually see when you run your motor window down, they go pop, 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 pop. That's because this is flexing the inside of the door panel, and I have a solution for that we come up with, but it's a 2-part solution. We reinforce the plate that actually holds the window switch. So if you guys have seen New Relics, you push the handle down, it goes down, you lift it up, it goes up. Looks like it came from the factory that way with crank windows, but it actually goes up and down. Very cool. However, they do get jumpy on the way down, and if you guys have seen New Relics and seen this, this is the fix. You put this plate in on this side, and then you reinforce where the motor is, and all that jumpiness will go away. But anyways, we're talking about wiring, right? So let's get back to the wiring. To start the wiring process on this, right here, you see that little white mark? It's a little dimple from the factory, and right there, we'll go ahead and we'll drill this out here, drill that out there, and then we'll run this as an interface to make sure that your wires don't get all boogered up going in and out just for the New Relics. Anyways, let's hop over to, as I call it, the house wiring, right? So this would be considered house wiring. Windows, lights, trim, gas tank, all that stuff goes through what we use is a Highway 22. So I'm going to start with where the power comes into the car. Have you guys seen how people run the wires underneath the cars and they strap them up on the bottom of the frame? Huh. Think about that for a minute. It's like putting your fuel line down there. No. Anyways, what's cool is we use these little devices. Look here, painless wiring, remote battery, junction terminal. But what it is you drill a hole in the floor and you actually use that sleeve and you put it through the hole in the floor like that. Now you can hook your main power cable up right through the body. we take the power cable from the battery in the back that goes right here, right? So you got a 0-aught power cable that we run all the way to the front that use good connectors. If you don't have this device, find it, get it, use it, find a friend. Anyways, this goes onto the battery and this runs all the way up to this connector and it'll show you right up there on the floor. And then that feeds off to your alternator and feeds off to your starter because those are your main power lugs. You got to have your most power when you're going to try and start the car, right? Anyways, so in the back, our power lug is also isolated here and it goes onto this distribution box. So now all other power that comes off the back, amplifiers, details, that kind of stuff, will come from this bus right here. Again, the same thing happens. The negative from the battery goes here, and then this goes all the way out throughout the whole car with the remote disconnect. Let's follow the main power wire now, which is the positive, and the chassis and the body are now the ground interface to the rest of the cars. And let's go forward now and kind of look at where the Highway 22 is mounted and how we actually pull off that power and where we run the smarts. I'm going to talk to you about the ECU in a second, where the computer gets in the equation. Come on, let's go. As you can see, how we have run that main power cable, the 0-aught red cable that actually runs all the way along the side of the tunnel, comes up, goes through the back, and goes right into the trunk and hooks onto the battery. We keep that on one side, we keep the audio stuff on the other side to reduce noise, but that main lug right there is where we're gonna power up our alternator, we're gonna power up our main power for our starter, and last but not least, we're gonna harness off of that power to run the Highway 22. The Highway 22 is your fuse panel. And we mount it in a really easy, convenient location. What we don't wanna do is put relays or fuses in a position where you gotta go hunting for them. Yes, there's not a huge area left for a glove box, but everything is designed in this car to be serviceable, right? Have you ever owned a new car and you gotta read the manual for like a half hour to figure out where a fuse is at, and they got 4 fuse panels or 6 fuse panels? This thing has 2. And it only has 2 because of the LT4. The LT4 smart computer run engine has its own fuse panel that's for the computer relays for the fuel, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This right here is an external power bus too. So we gotta have a few more circuits, so we just put that alongside it. So the AC unit for the relay is right up there. That runs some of the stereo equipment for the auxiliary, but very, very simple. And they come really nicely wired and really nicely assembled. If you notice, everywhere it comes out of here goes at a 90 degree. They all flow the same direction. Between that, the vintage air, which is right behind it, if you notice, that is all wired and nestled behind it. And then we will go ahead and uniformly run our wiring channel over the top to the set of Dakota digital gauges. Okay, so up behind here is the BIM module. It's right about there. There's the I Did It set of relays. There's also the master controller for the Dakota Digital. Anyways, these are not things that you have to actually service or get to very often, or if ever. So we tuck them up really high and tight. Now this looks a little rat's nesty under there. You guys heard me say rat's nest before, because none of it has been finished loomed. What happens is you lay all your components out, you wire them in, and then you'll go back with your zip ties and do a finished wire loom over the whole thing and tidy it all up. You don't want anything bouncing and moving all over the place. All right, last but not least, when we're talking about wiring, how do you run the motor? How does that work? We're gonna go between these 2 cars. I'm gonna show you our strategy for exactly how we laid out the LT4 wiring in these Chevelles. All right, let's get at it. So remember I talked about the fact you got house wiring and then you got the ECU, the computer run part of the equation, right? This stuff is all headlights, turn signals, all that stuff that we run up through here. This is where the original heater core box used to be. We got a plate that we put over there to make it nice and tight and clean looking, hold all these hoses and the clamps that you've seen us use on them. And then these units actually run up inside of there. Now, this is house wiring, right? When it starts getting into the smart stuff like the computer, oh, hello, the aliens are back. All 3 of them, the blue one, the black one, the gray one. This is all part of the engine harness. You can see how much different it is. You got old school remedial house wiring, right? And then we got the new school smart wiring. See all these components? Guys, you pretty much don't want to cut or shorten or lengthen these too much if you don't have to. Now we do in certain situations, but if you're not an expert at wiring, please, kids, do not try this at home. Now, here is the OEM fuse box that actually feeds and controls everything in and out of this harness. So all of the smarts that need to control this LT4 really are contained in the computer that's mounted up here, and I'm going to show you on the other car what it looks like when it's finished. Okay guys, that's where we hide the computer on these bad boys as we run all the electronics and wiring behind the inner fender well. That way we can keep it really clean. That's pretty much a tidy up. These are the rock lights that go into the hood, but I hope I gave you a good understanding of how where the power comes from, how do we feed the main fuse panel, and then what does the ECU do, and then where does it get fed from? So what do you guys think? Pretty cool what we're doing with the wiring. Totally a new strategy. We do things very differently than a lot of other people do. Speaking about doing things differently, that's why I like to share the Word of God. Makes you think of things differently, and this week it's been kind of tough. But let's go to the Word, and I'm going to tell you what happened, and I'm going to give you some wisdom and knowledge that I've been studying, and we'll go from there. Come on, kids, let's go check out the Bible. So this week was kind of tough on us. G.I. Jeff was one of our guys that worked with us for about a year. Nice kid, always seemed happy, always like having fun, and I wouldn't believe it, but he actually took his own life. On Friday, we got a call, and the reason I bring it up is you never really know what's in somebody else's head or what somebody else is really thinking. What I want to do is encourage you guys to, again, get with people who know the Word, read the Word, find a Bible, dig in a little bit, because God knows every thought that goes on in your head. He knows everything about you. He's got a great plan for you, and there's great peace and wisdom in this book. Jeff had a lot of good friends here. Any one of us would have dropped what we were doing to go help him. Anytime. At the end of the day, and somebody's in that situation, and if you're in that situation, I'm going to encourage you to reach out for help. There's a lot of people in your life that probably love the heck out of you too, just like we love Jeff. There's a lot of people out there that care about you, and God's got a great plan for you, and there's suicide hotlines, there's all kinds of awareness. Let's look at the joy at the end of the video, where we're going to actually take a look and see the joy in Jeff's face. But obviously he was fighting a lot of demons that were running around inside his head. Anyways, Paul wrote this, Philippians. It's Philippians 4. Paul says, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether I am fed or hungry, whether living with plenty or in want. I can do everything through him who gives me strength. That's what Paul was saying, is like, even when I'm hungry, or even when I need this, or even when I'm desperate, God will give you strength, right? So again, that's what the good word says. At the end of it, and at the end of 4 right there, he also goes on a little farther, goes, and my God will meet your needs according to his gracious riches in Christ Jesus. Meaning, like, God is there to help you. He really will. He loves you. He sent his son to die for you on a cross. Guys, there is always hope. Don't let it get that dark on you. If you're struggling with depression or something that's going on, you got people around you that love you, or you need an outside help, call a crisis hotline. There's a lot of help out there for people. Life's tough, man. It is tough. When you get rooted in this and you understand that God is real, you got to fill your mind with things that are positive. Here's one trick that I've learned. It's very easy to get caught up in jealousy or anger or things of this world that are really not very positive. But if you just walk outside and you have to say, hey, look at that tree. If I believe that God actually created the heavens and the earth, he made the trees, and he made the bushes, and he made the grass, and those clouds going over by. Fill your mind with things that are positive. Sit and ponder that for a minute. You know, this beautiful creation that we live in is just an amazing, amazing universe. And this is what God created, and he created you too. So be encouraged. Things go rough sometimes. Goodbye, Jeff. It was fun hanging out with the kid. He's a nice young man. And amen. We're out. Check out the video with Jeff. It's pretty cool. I'm ready.
We got tornadic activity, lightning. Well, this guy's weed whacking. He's just still working.
Oh, it's coming right now. Oh, I'm practicing my cat burgling skills. I gotta get the makeup right.
Hello, my friends. This is how you stay warm in Mother Russia and or the United States when it's this cold.
Hear that? Oh, yes. Where's the limo driver?
Rick and Mandy, I used to work on birdhouses.
You're working outside and you forgot a nice hat. You just gotta pull off the Lawrence of Arabia and get this soaking wet so that way your head stays cool. I might look insane, but typically I always do, so this is not new to me. If your mac and cheese doesn't sound like that, you're not cooking it right.
Well, bottoms up.
I think I did a pretty good job.